The classic straight-cut fry. Before anything else existed, before spirals, before waffle grids, before cheese curds and gravy, there was this. A rectangle of potato fried twice, salted once. The straight-cut fry is the original, the benchmark, the fry that every other fry is quietly being compared to. Here's the first thing most people get wrong about it: it's not French. The name comes from a linguistic accident. In the late 1600s, villagers in the Meuse Valley region of what is now Belgium were cutting small fish from the river and frying them in the winter when the water froze over. When they had no fish, they cut potatoes into the same shape and fried those instead. Fast forward to World War I. American soldiers stationed in Belgium encountered these fried potatoes for the first time. The official language of the Belgian army was French, so the soldiers called them French fries, brought the name home, and it stuck permanently. The technique behind the classic cut is more precise than it looks. The potato, almost always a russet Burbank, chosen for its low moisture and high starch content, gets peeled, cut into uniform quarter-inch strips, and then fried twice. First fry at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. This cooks the interior completely, turning the starch soft and fluffy. Then the fry is cooled or even frozen, which does something important: it dries the surface. Second fry at 375 degrees. Now the outer layer crisps up fast, sealing the crust before the interior can absorb oil. The result is that contrast: soft inside, golden and snappy outside. Ray Kroc understood this better than almost anyone. In the 1960s, he standardized McDonald's fry process around the russet Burbank and the double fry method, then pushed it across thousands of locations with zero variation. That consistency is why McDonald's fries became the global reference point for what a fry should taste like. But here's the part they don't advertise. Until 1990, McDonald's cooked their fries in a mixture of 93% beef tallow and 7% cottonseed oil. That's why people who grew up in the 80s insist the fries tasted different. They did. When the company switched to vegetable oil under health pressure, they added natural flavoring to compensate, which for years included a beef-derived additive. The flavor was never quite the same. Shoestring fries. Take the classic cut and keep going. Cut it thinner, then thinner again. At 1/8 of an inch, you've crossed into shoestring territory, a fry so thin it's almost a wire, so close to a chip that the line between them is mostly philosophical. Shoestrings rose to prominence in early 20th century American diners and fine steakhouses, where the thinner cut was considered more refined, more elegant. The same potato, but elevated by reduction. What makes shoestrings structurally different from every other fry is the surface area to mass ratio. There's almost no interior, nearly every part of the fry is crust. That means maximum Maillard reaction, the chemical browning process that creates flavor, and maximum crunch per bite. Salt doesn't just sit on the surface, it grips it because there's so much surface available. The trade-off is brutal. Shoestring fries have the shortest edible window of any fry on this list. Roughly 4 to 5 minutes after coming out of the oil, the crust begins to steam itself soft from the inside. There's not enough potato mass to hold heat without also creating condensation. This is why fast food restaurants serving thin fries, Five Guys, In-N-Out, are constantly dropping fresh batches. The fry is racing against its own physics. The flavor is almost entirely about the crust and the seasoning. There's very little potato flavor in a shoestring because there's very little potato interior. What you're really tasting is fried starch, salt, and oil, which is exactly why they work. They're the most addictive format precisely because they deliver pure, concentrated fry flavor with every single bite. Waffle fries. Now take that same potato and run it through a completely different blade. Rotate it 90 degrees between each pass on a mandolin fitted with a waffle blade, and what comes out looks almost architectural: a flat, open grid of potato with holes punched through it in a perfect crosshatch pattern. Chick-fil-A introduced waffle fries to mainstream American fast food in 1985, and at this point the chain serves well over 100 million pounds of them every year. But the concept of the waffle cut predates fast food entirely. It was inspired by Belgian waffle irons, which is its own kind of poetic full circle, given that the fry itself came from Belgium 3 centuries earlier. The grid structure does something specific to the eating experience. It dramatically increases the surface area of the fry. More surface area means more crust, more browning, more crunch per bite, and those holes, they work like tiny pockets for sauces and condiments. A waffle fry dunked in Chick-fil-A sauce doesn't just get coated on the outside, the sauce gets trapped in the lattice and held there through every bite. It's fry engineering. The texture is unlike any other cut on this list. The thinner sections of the grid get extremely crispy, almost brittle. The thicker crosshatch intersections stay slightly chewy. Every bite delivers both textures simultaneously, and because the fry is denser overall than a shoestring, it holds heat longer, which extends that textural window considerably. Crinkle cut fries. The crinkle cut doesn't get enough credit. People associate it with school cafeterias and frozen food bags, and that association isn't wrong, but the reason it became the dominant format for institutional and commercial frozen fries is because it was engineered to be. In the 1940s and 50s, the American frozen food industry was scaling fast. Companies needed fries that could survive freezing, reheating, and industrial processing without falling apart or losing texture. The crinkle blade, a fluted, wavy knife that cuts the potato in a sinusoidal zigzag, solved multiple problems at once. First, the ridges increased surface area, which meant more browning and more crunch even after a suboptimal reheat. Second, and this part is rarely mentioned, the ridge shape gave industrial processing machines something to grip. Flat, smooth fries slipped around on conveyor belts. Crinkle cuts didn't. The aesthetic was functional before it was anything else. Ore-Ida, founded in 1951 on the Oregon-Idaho border, helped industrialize the crinkle cut and distribute it nationally throughout the 1950s and 60s. By the time the American school lunch program was standardizing menus across the country, the crinkle cut was already the default fry format in institutional kitchens. What makes crinkle cuts taste distinct is the ridges themselves. Each ridge is a peak of exposed potato surface that makes full contact with hot oil. More browning means more Maillard reaction products, the same compounds responsible for the flavor of roasted coffee, seared meat, and toasted bread. A crinkle-cut fry delivers measurably more of that flavor than a flat, straight cut of equivalent size because of pure geometry. Steak fries. Everything so far has been about maximizing crunch, maximizing surface area, maximizing the fried exterior. Steak fries go the opposite direction entirely. They are the most potato-forward fry in existence. Half an inch thick, sometimes more, often skin-on, cooked low and slow at 325 degrees Fahrenheit to push heat all the way through a dense mass of potato without burning the outside before the interior is done. The name comes from their traditional pairing with steak in American restaurants from the 1950s onward. They were designed to sit beside a ribeye or a sirloin as a substantial side, not a snack, not a garnish, but an equal partner on the plate. Their closest culinary relative isn't the American straight cut at all. It's the British chip, thick, fluffy, often cooked in beef dripping, served with malt vinegar in a newspaper cone. The physics of the steak fry work differently than thinner cuts. Because the surface area to volume ratio is so low, less oil contacts each gram of potato during frying. Steak fries actually absorb less oil by weight than shoestrings or waffle fries. The interior stays almost baked soft, steamy, with the clean, pure flavor of the russet Burbank potato coming through without competition from excessive crust or seasoning. The crust itself is thinner relative to the interior than any other fry format, and it holds heat longer than anything else on this list. A steak fry pulled from the fryer is still hot 8 to 10 minutes later. A shoestring is lukewarm in 4. Curly fries. In 1988, Arby's introduced something that had never existed before, a fry with a brand identity. Curly fries weren't just a different cut. They were seasoned before frying: paprika, onion powder, garlic, a proprietary spice blend applied to the raw potato before it hit the oil. The seasoning didn't sit on top of the crust, it baked into it. The machine that makes curly fries is a helical spiral slicer, developed by food engineering companies in the Pacific Northwest. The potato is impaled on a spike and rotated while a blade travels along it in a continuous helix, producing one long, unbroken spiral that holds its coil shape through blanching and frying. The engineering required to make this consistent at industrial scale, thousands of fries per hour, each one holding a recognizable corkscrew shape, was genuinely novel for the time. The result is a fry that delivers more flavor complexity than any plain-cut alternative. The paprika brings smokiness, the garlic brings depth, the onion powder brings sweetness, and because the season. A 2014 study by Cambridge researchers analyzing Facebook data found that preference for curly fries was one of the most statistically reliable indicators of high intelligence among user food preferences, not because there's anything cognitively special about curly fries, but because the same personality clusters that liked them also engaged with specific high correlation content. It was a quirky data artifact, but Arby's has never stopped mentioning it. Sweet potato fries. Here's where the category shifts entirely, because sweet potato fries aren't made from potatoes. Not really. Ipomoea batatas, the sweet potato, belongs to the morning glory family. The white russet potato is a nightshade. They are different plants from different botanical families that happen to share a name and a general shape. Everything about how sweet potato fries behave in a fryer is different. The critical difference is sugar content. Sweet potatoes contain significantly more natural sugars than russet potatoes. In a fryer, those sugars caramelize aggressively. At standard frying temperatures of 375 degrees, a sweet potato fry will go from perfectly golden to deeply burnt in a matter of seconds. Professional kitchens fry them at 325 to 350 degrees, pull them earlier, and often coat them in a thin cornstarch slurry beforehand. The starch creates a physical barrier that slows caramelization and helps the exterior crisp without burning. Even with all that, sweet potato fries never achieve the structural crunch of a white potato fry. The higher sugar and moisture content means the crust is always slightly softer, slightly more delicate. That's not a failure. It's a different experience, sweeter, earthier, with a caramelized depth that white potato fries don't have. They pair with completely different condiments: chipotle, yoli, honey mustard, maple syrup, sriracha. Sweet potato fries surged across American restaurant menus between 2008 and 2012, marketed consistently as a healthier alternative. The reality is more nuanced. Sweet potato fries are higher in vitamin A, specifically beta-carotene and fiber, but calorie for calorie when fried, they land in roughly the same range as white potato fries. They're nutritionally denser, not necessarily lighter. The health halo was more marketing than biochemistry. Poutine-style and loaded fries. Every fry on this list treats the fry as the final product. This category treats it as the beginning. The fry becomes a structural platform, a vessel engineered to hold weight, absorb liquid, and survive topping without collapsing. Poutine was invented in rural Quebec, Canada, sometime around 1957. The most widely credited origin points to Fernand Lachance, a restaurant owner in Warwick, Quebec, who combined fresh cheese curds and brown gravy on top of a basket of fries at a customer's request. The dish was initially considered low-class roadside food. By the 1990s, it was considered a national symbol. By the 2000s, it had spread across Canada and into American cities, spawning gourmet versions with duck confit, lobster, and truffle oil in restaurants, charging $40 a plate for what started as a trucker's side order. The engineering of a poutine fry matters enormously. Thin fries collapse under wet toppings within 90 seconds. A proper poutine base requires a thick cut or steak-style fry with a robust crust, ideally skin-on, that can absorb gravy slowly without losing structural integrity. The heat of the freshly fried potato is also critical. Authentic poutine uses fresh cheese curds that are less than 24 hours old. When those curds hit a hot fry and warm gravy, they soften slightly but don't melt completely. They remain distinct, slightly squeaky, bouncing between solid and molten. That squeak against the teeth is considered the quality test. If the curds are silent, they're too old or too melted. The squeak means they're fresh. What poutine started, the rest of the world continued. Chili cheese fries in the American South and Midwest. Masala fries in India, seasoned with cumin, chopped masala, and green chutney. Döner fries in Germany, topped with shaved kebab meat and garlic sauce. Disco fries in New Jersey diners, mozzarella and brown gravy, the American diner's answer to Quebec. The loaded fry format is the most globally adapted version of the fry because it operates on a universal principle. Take a platform that everyone already loves and let each culture fill it with whatever they love most.